How to build a tech startup. Although the title of this video is how to build a tech startup, this video encompasses more how to build the product, or in other words, the mobile app or software. So this means we won't be talking about our user acquisition strategies, financial models, revenue model, pitch decks, product roadmaps, proper evaluation of your startup, etc. Capiche? Let's roll that intro. Applications are improving our lives. We have an app to order food, call a ride, pay our bills, or even walk a dog. If you have a brilliant idea for your mobile app startup, you're probably wondering what the process looks like to building an app. In fact, the mobile app development process consists of several stages that are not so obvious to many founders. And in this video, I'll explain the main steps you need to consider to go from ideas to app stores. After watching this video, you'll know how to explain your ideas to developers, partners, and investors. And you'll have service level knowledge and how to go about building your startup. So let's get started. Step 1, solidifying the idea. Here's some questions to ask yourself. By answering the following, you'll be able to solidify the concept. By the way, you do not need to write these questions down, as I've already created a doc containing these questions in the description below. Here we go. Question 1, what's the overarching concept or idea? Next, what real-world problems are you solving? Who are your personas? For example, in Uber's model, we have 3, the driver, the passenger, and admin to manage day-to-day operations. Next, what are the user stories? Meaning, what can users do? What are the core features of the app? An example of this would be transactions, account registration, messaging, etc. By answering some of these questions, you'll be able to solidify your concept a little bit better. Now, let's move on to step 2. Step 2 is the technical specs of the app, also known as the technical specification or software documentation. This spec is an instruction manual to your platform which outlines the screens, the user journey, feature requirements, and logic. It outlines the user flow, such as a user signing up to then using the core features of the app. It'll contain what operating system you're building on, the technologies to be used, testing to be done, time frame, budget, and even limitations or capabilities with the concept. This part is continuous throughout the entire ideation and wireframing phase. As part of the development process, the dev team you choose to work with should create the technical doc. The team should conduct the following: hold a work session with you and outline the user journey, the feature functionality, integrations, and overall scope. Identify the different personas involved and define the user interface and user experience. They should also help validate the idea, identifying gaps and offering suggestions where you, the client, may have overlooked an important requirement or feature. They should also suggest methodologies and solutions in which the project can be implemented without complications or barriers. Elaborate the requirements granularly and define the scope of version 1 or the minimum viable product, also known as the MVP. Develop a monolithic or microservice architecture depending on the future version of the app. An example, types of interactions between the systems and subsystems and scalability, etc. that may factor into what architecture is selected. After creating the technical doc, you're able to get started on the wireframe or the prototype of the app. Now that all the requirements are clarified and the user stories are written, the dev team will do a functional decomp to break down the user stories, particular functions, prioritize them, and create the blueprint of the mobile app. This blueprint, which we call the wireframe, will include essential features, screens, and user journeys. Which brings us to our next step, the wireframe. Step 3, the wireframe. Creating the wireframe is a pivotal step in the software development lifecycle. At this stage, your team uses the requirements of the technical doc from the previous step to build a prototype. Using the wireframe, you'll experience the app flow and get feedback on whether the prototype meets the requirement of your business ideas. To create the app prototype, the development agency should do the following. And guys, it's crucial that they actually do this. First is creating the low fidelity design. This focuses mainly on the information architecture, meaning placement of text, buttons, etc. It'll also explain the user flow throughout the platform. Second, creating a high fidelity wireframe. This provides a visualization of buttons, colors, images, and screens. Brings the app to life. In other words, it gives it some lipstick. Third, creating an interactive prototype of your app. This helps analyze all possible use cases, discover logical breaks and technical inconsistencies with the original idea. Many use this prototype to user test, gather feedback that may be critical to the success of your startup. So now that the prototype is ready, you can enter the development stage. Keep in mind, as you enter this phase, note that there may be 2 to 4 devs assigned to the given project, as you'll need a developer that specializes in each operating system, but this is if you're building a native app. Now this takes us into the next step, step 4, development and testing. Now that the team will start the next phase of the app development lifecycle, during which your dev team will create a front end, in other words, client-side development. The This looks like bringing the user interface and user experience, defining the wireframe and technical spec to create a presentation layer of the software for which direct users will interact with. Then, moving on to the back end, setting up cloud storage or server and database that connects the front end of the app with the data access layer. Now, to create a native iOS app, developers use Objective-C or Swift and Xcode, which is the development environment, also known as the IDE. As for Android apps, your developers will use Java for Kotlin and the Android Studio as the IDE, along with many other tech stacks to build a full functional app. And keep in mind, that's just surface level information on a native app. Now, during the development stage, it's important that you're provided with project updates. And this way, you'll assure work transparency, make sure that the developers are on the same page as you. The cost of a mobile app development depends on the app complexity. If you want to estimate your app, use our cost calculator, which I'll have a direct link to in the description below. Now let's end this with the last and final step. Step 5, solidifying the business. In this phase, we want to have a solid business plan or a business goal. Here are some things you'll want to do to give yourself concrete business objectives. First, let's clarify what problems you solve and how your new app will meet the product market fit or actually solve the problems. Next, you want to understand what our startup cost will be. In other words, how much will you spend before you're able to officially open for business is something that's also known as the burn rate. The costs can come from product development, business registration, office space, staff, etc. There's several ways to generate revenues in the app world. If you're not familiar, take a look at the subscription models, premium or freemium, and in-app purchases. Now, I'm not going to be able to go through every bit of detail within this phase, as this is meant to be a high-level overview. Now, let's recap. What do you need to do prior to beginning your mobile app startup or tech startup? First of all, you need to be able to describe your idea to the development team. Use the cheat sheet I attached below so you have the concept thought out. Have a wireframe designed and developed, then move into the prototype phase where you'll be able to have a concrete mock-up of your application. Then hire a development team to build out your MVP. Remember, the app development process includes more than just design and coding. At the very beginning of your project, your mobile app development team should create a technical documentation, functional requirements, and user stories. Hope this information was helpful and that you walk away from this video learning a thing or two about starting your tech company. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so I can continue to push content like this. If you'd like me to cover a specific topic, leave your comments in the description below, and I'll make sure to get back to them. Until next time, cheers.